one begins to wonder as we recall the ministry of Jesus, whether or not faithful service can exist without resistance, without attracting animosity, without being attacked by the powers that be in the status quo. Perhaps even more than the exuberance of Pentecost, it's some of the early resistance that the church experiences that perhaps reveals its faithfulness to Christ. We see bits of it here and there, including in today's passage from chapter 5, just a small part of a larger story. And I'll be reading parts of it that are in yellow print. I invite you to read aloud together those words in white. The 9 priests and all his associates, who were members of the party of the Sadducees, were filled with jealousy.
They arrested the apostles and put them in the public jail.
But during the night, an angel of the Lord opened the doors of the jail and brought them out.
Go, stand in the temple courts, he said, and tell the people all about this new life.
At daybreak, they entered the temple courts as they had been told and began to teach the people. When the high priest and his associates arrived, they called together the Sanhedrin, the full assembly of the elders of Israel, and sent to the jail for the apostles.
But on arriving at the jail, the officers did not find them there. So they went back and reported.
That had to be a fun message to deliver. Those apostles that we took custody of and took to the local jail just aren't there today. Whenever you read a text that someone has offered to you as history, as the Acts of the Apostle is supposedly offering, here's the history of the early church. There are so many different things to examine. Our best understanding, depending upon who you listen to, is that the book itself was first written and then distributed, perhaps around 75 AD, 85 AD, some 50 years after the actual events. By this time, most of the Gospels had been written and distributed, but John's Gospel was still in the making. And you ask yourself, why was the book written? What was its purpose? What was the author, who identifies himself as Luke, what was he trying to do? This was not the era of the New York Times bestseller, so he wasn't trying to make a fortune like every other book writer these days. Perhaps it was more like the few that are still even existing in our day, a commitment to a cause, a desire to convey a message, perhaps a hope of inspiring change. What was happening around AD? In the early years, the first 30 to 40 years of the church, there was an ongoing struggle between its true identity. Was it, as the church in Jerusalem would have believed, a reformed Judaism? Did it come out of its Jewish roots? Were some of those Jewish traditions, understandings still central to this Jewish Christian faith that was building? Or was it this radical thing that Paul, most of all, was discovering and propelling in the Gentile world? Something totally different, totally independent of its Jewish roots. The battles went back and forth, Paul answering to the Jerusalem council, dealing with people sent from Jerusalem into his own mission fields and the churches that he helped found, coming in and modifying his message, changing his gospel. As heated an argument as you could have in those days when transportation and communication were so very difficult. A fight for the identity of the church. By 80 AD, there was no Jerusalem council. There was no Jerusalem church. There was no Jerusalem. It had rebelled sufficiently against the Roman powers that the armies went in, chased people away, killed who were left, tore the city down in a way that I think only the Romans could do. The temple was gone. The leadership of both the Orthodox Jewish tradition and this Jewish Christian movement were gone. Judaism now lived in the synagogues dispersed around the nations. Christianity was still an outlaw religion. Roman authorities were still on occasion rounding them up, depending upon which maniac was emperor in Rome at the time. Arresting them because they insisted on worshiping the Lord, Yahweh, Jehovah, the God, Jesus, whatever they insisted on worshiping. So that when you read like our opening psalm today, and we talk about the Lord, a name worthy to be praised, it would be praised in those days at the risk of everything. Occasionally Rome would allow you to worship your God as long as you worship the Roman gods, as long as you worship the emperor. But these Christians, like their Jewish cousins, were stubborn monotheists. I can only worship one God. I can't worship one among many. I got to worship the Lord. I got to worship the Father of Jesus. I got to worship Jehovah. I can't worship many. And so they might be arrested. Their gatherings might be routed. Their families might be imprisoned. And yet, despite that political upheaval and that great physical risk, the battle for the identity of the church continued. And Luke, as he calls himself, wrote this book, the Acts of the Apostles, to help shape people's minds, to help them understand that this was the true evolution of the faith of Jesus. that if you want to be right with God, you let behind Jewish roots and traditions, you left behind your pagan roots and traditions, and you allowed yourself to fully commit to this Jesus movement, powerful among the Gentiles. By the end of the book of the Acts, we see that Paul has simply abandoned the synagogues and the traditional Jews and is working entirely with the Greeks and the Turks, the Italians, and all of these who did not have that Jewish heritage. The message being the true church moved on and left them behind. That's at least how it's being portrayed. That's at least the message that is being presented to them in 2,000 years, presented to us. And so, in that context, when I look at today's passage, I think it's really interesting. The jealousy of the priests results in the arrest of three of the more outspoken apostles. Why? Because they're getting all kinds of attention, they're drawing all kinds of crowds. Chief priests just can't stand that. It's portrayed as jealousy, not as righteousness. It's not being portrayed that we disagree because of the heresy of their message, the way the chief priests had claimed about Jesus. It's being portrayed simply as a jealousy. They're more popular than us and we can't stand it. Put them in jail. And so they're put in jail, and an angel of the Lord comes and opens the doors and escorts them out. I honestly wonder whether that really happened. But it's right there. I don't think I doubt that Luke believed it happened. Pretty confident that his early readers believed it happened. I believe that a lot of people today believe it happened. I'm not saying it didn't, but for God to get personally, historically involved in freeing prisoners, it's such a powerful message. As if Luke is saying, you think you can silence our truth? You think your earthly authority has any lasting power? Luke is saying, if you wonder whose side God is on, here's some clear evidence. Not the chief priests, despite all their earthly power and their political influence. Not the guards in the city jail. Where is God on this in this argument? God, Luke says, is on the side of the apostles, on the side of the emerging church, on the side of the continuing message of Jesus. And if you ever think you can stop it, you're fooling yourselves. In fact, I think that there is some truth to this, that the message of the Gospels has endured great persecution. The kinds of things that would send most of us cowering into our corners and silent forever. The church continued to emerge. People continued to defy authority and stand up in the public square, or in the temple, or in the synagogue, or in the churches, or in the forums and proclaim this message of Jesus, just as we saw in today's passage. Fools, absolute, total fools. They were just arrested yesterday. An angel releases them, and they go right back in the face of the people who arrested them. Fools for Christ, as it turns out. And their opponents are simply stunned. We don't know what to do now. But there's something about this Pentecost spirit that not only enjoys great success when there's no opposition. There's something about this Pentecost spirit that seems to become even more powerful, even more lively, even more potent in the face of opposition, in times of great peril, when it's not just reputation, but it's freedom and life that's on the line. You know, I wonder if Jesus knew. I wonder if Luke knew. I wonder if the Spirit knew. I wonder if God knew that the great threat to the Christian proclamation would not be chief priests or Roman authorities or even ongoing division within the children of God through the centuries. It would not be the political opposition and the military upheavals that would threaten the proclamation of the gospel, but it would be peace. It would be comfort. It would be the assumption that the work's already done. It would be complacency. It would be indifference. Charge out into the streets. That's already been done. Proclaiming it on television. That's already been done. Churches all over town standing up proud and strong and solemn. The evidence is out there. The gospel's been proclaimed. The work is done. It's not our job. It's not my responsibility. It's not the Spirit's continued effort. In a day when you can almost say anything you want in public, almost anything you want in public, how much do we talk about God? How much do we talk about the blessings that flow to us and through us? How much do we talk about a higher power? How much do we talk about a higher purpose? No, it's the weather and the ball games and how's the grandkids. None of that's terrible. And we just assume they probably heard the gospel. They don't need to hear it from us. They probably have heard all they wanted about God, and they made their decisions. We don't want to make things awkward and uncomfortable. The great, how many great grandchildren of the people who were arrested one day, released that night, and walked right back in the face of their opposition the next day. We don't want to make things awkward. We don't want to talk about God. It's not our job. It's not our place. I don't know what to do about it. I don't necessarily like people coming up and spattering their religion in my face either. That's my problem, not theirs. but to have started from such an illustrious beginning, such a motivated, powerful spirit that would stand up in the face of arrest. And here we are among the most privileged, comfortable, self-satisfied people in human history. A country in which we do celebrate, regardless of our own personal views and political perspectives. It's a country where in one town you can have a pride parade, an LGBTQ celebration. And in another city, the Klan can march. No one's arrested because of their message. They might be hated because of what they represent. But the freedom to speak is powerfully abundant. Almost anything you want to say can be said without harassment. The NSA is recording it all anyway, but there's no black Suburbans coming up to your house to haul you off. An utter amazing freedom of speech. People who believe they have something to say don't say that. It sounds like a good summer project. How do we figure out how to bring back to life that Spirit of Christ in our own words, within our own attitudes and our own personalities? How can we continue to honor the Spirit that faced great persecution and death because the message was so important? How do we get that full message across? Not just words, not just a book we hand out, but people who believe it so strongly that it's at least part of their conversation. Let us pray.